Set on the moon Callisto in the year 2320, Callisto Protocol challenges players to escape the maximum security Black Iron prison and uncover its terrifying secrets. For those of you who want more than the game itself can provide, there's a 6-part prequel podcast called Helix Station, which offers a chance for fans to go deep with the United Jupiter Company and Black Iron Prison and uncover the horror and tension that was already feeling very at home in Black Iron Prison, even before the biophages made their pussy, shambling appearance. In addition to this, the Mastering Horror docuseries sees Glenn Schofield and the development team at Striking Distance Studios discussing Callisto Protocol and showing off a load of behind-the-scenes footage from the game. The 3-part series looks at how the game has approached terror, discussing in detail the game's 5 tenets of horror: brutality, atmosphere, tension, helplessness, and humanity. To save you watching every single part, I've scraped up all the most interesting tidbits that you need to know if you're thinking about buying the Callisto Protocol like me. So, here we go. I'm Zoe Delahunty-Light, and these are the behind-the-scenes details you need to know about the Callisto Protocol. The Callisto Protocol holds a mirror up to the emerging increased brutality in modern cinema. Inspired by recent movies, personally, X, the Terrifier series, and Pearl spring to mind for me, Striking Distance Studios want Callisto Protocol to feel very raw and very real to the player. And there will be plenty of raw chunks of flesh around Black Iron Prison, so when the metaphorical rawness is exhausted, you've got the more physical side lying in bloody chunks at your feet too. Brutality like this can be used as a tool to cut through, connect with people, and to achieve that almost lizard brain reaction of terror and fear of what's going on the screen. Of course, with games, unlike cinema, you aren't a passive watcher, you're right in the middle of the story. You are the one performing tasks, you are the one that succeeds, and, particularly with a game as tough as the Callisto Protocol, you are the one that fails. Callisto Protocol's gameplay and combat experience is about getting uncomfortably close to those creatures that are bringing the brutality and not holding anything back, bodily fluids included. You, via Jacob, are always within reach of Callisto Protocol's biophages, and so you're always seeing that brutality up close as the camera is right up there with you over your shoulder whenever you hit an enemy, or, just as likely, an enemy hits and disembowels you. Regardless of whose physical boundaries are being violated violently, you can't help but see the blood and the gore that results from each hit. At times, the combat can feel like it's a gruesome dance, with Jacob barely ducking out of the way, timing blocks and dodges to the right rhythm to deftly avoid attacks, until you get the rhythm wrong and you get hit hard. Yes, this is a brutality that works both ways though. Callisto Protocol is a world full of fear and horror, where you'll be doing brutal things lest you have them done to you. And what horrific things are done to you, I hear you ask, maybe from behind a cushion or slavering in the mouth? Well, I'm scared of you if you're the last one, but also, cool, I can relate. Every unlifing of Jacob comes with a death scene specific to the enemy you're fighting and the situation you're in. Striking Distance pull no punches in showing every detail of how the biophage and Jacob end each other. Gruesome cinematics like that almost reward us players in a way, as they kind of become moments of light, ridiculous relief as you gasp at just how brutal those deaths are, becoming almost like collectibles for us, to be honest, as it's very common and expected for us to want to find every gross and stomach-churning death animation, just like everyone wants to Google every single ending in a game that they've just played, no matter how gory it is in Callisto Protocol's case. Atmosphere and mood is essential to building suspense and setting the stage for what's coming. With both of those elements, immersion is the backbone of a good horror game. That's the beauty of the gaming world versus cinema. When you watch a film, you feel like you're part of the movie, but you're always a little detached, as you're not actually in the horror itself, you're just a viewer. When it comes to games, however, you are the main character. You have agency over what you're doing in the game, in the choices you make, and how you interact with the world around you. The design of Black Iron Prison and the overall planet was a deep process, and Schofield claims that at least half the resources went on environment design and getting the right atmosphere. The core of this was developing this idea of the future prison, using references and working to create something darker, a more brutal feeling than you'd first think, something that would be terrifying to walk through. A combination of wide open spaces mixed with tight, claustrophobic ones. Darkness and light are used expertly throughout Callisto Protocol, often tricking you into thinking shadows are monsters. In the end, it leaves you afraid of opening every door and questioning everything, making you think a whole lot about the spaces you find yourself in. With mutation being such a key part of the creature design in Callisto Protocol, the design team wanted to match this with the environment design, turning to generative design for further inspiration. This essentially takes man-made objects, throws it at an AI, and then mutates it into a new thing, resulting in something that looks really alien and not man-made at all. Basically, a perfect match for whatever they were doing with the biophages. To come up with the game's colour palette, the team turned to psychology and the emotion of colour, as well as referencing a lot of horror and sci-fi films such as Cameron's Alien, Kubrick's The Shining, and Ridley Scott's Blade Runner. In one particular processing area, the environmental artists used yellows and greens and browns, because these are colours that apparently emphasise disgust, evidently wanting the disgust to come through as the underlying fear element in those areas. When you think about horror, it's not just an endless series of jump scares going from one to the other. I mean, sometimes it can be, but I personally find that a tiny bit cheap. True horror has a ton of tension built into those moments where you know something is coming, but you don't quite know what it will be or where it will come from. Schofield wanted there to be a constant sense of dread as to where the biophage could appear, as it's not always as straightforward as rounding a corner or opening a door and being faced with them. There are multiple entryways for these monsters to come out of, be it from vents, pipes, or even the floor beneath you. It's in these instances that the third-person camera really helps to ramp up the tension, as it's close behind Jacob, but also makes you constantly aware that there is a behind that's left unseen, and similarly that there could be something hiding in the periphery just outside of the camera's framing. Striking Distance are using the next gen, or current gen as it is now, to its full potential, even using the controller where possible to ramp up and release tension. Through the controller you can feel Jacob's heartbeat in your hands, his footsteps, and any sudden jolts around you. During combat, trust me, you can feel every hit, even down to feeling bones breaking when you lop off an enemy's limb. It's oddly satisfying. The speaker too allows a whole new toolbox of fear to be in your hands. You can be walking down a hallway and suddenly hear a whispering trickling out the controller's speaker, putting that horror into the real world with you and making you wonder where it's coming from and where you can avoid it. Helplessness and hopelessness usually go hand in hand, as they both are about being out of control. Striking Distance have worked hard to ride that weird, vague line between the two. They want their characters to be in high-stakes situations at all times, and for us, the players, to be constantly worrying how they're going to get out of them. And I can tell you this for sure, some of them definitely aren't going to be able to. There's going to be a lot of gore. Anyway, at the same time, in order to keep us engaged, there always needs to be an element of hope, that spark of flight left in the character no matter how dire things have become. Schofield looks at helplessness as a physical condition, comprised of things like not having enough ammo, not having the right weapon, or not knowing what to do in any given situation. These things lead to you feeling like you're only just getting through every encounter by the skin of your teeth, as this kind of helplessness keeps you firmly on edge and firmly within the horror. Hopelessness, in contrast, is despair to Schofield, an emotion, essentially. He sees the best thing in a horror game as being dashing the players, or characters, newfound hope, which is so cruel in a way I really admire. Callisto is not conducive to hope, which is probably obvious by now. As the glorious Rihanna would say, it's a hopeless place, and even if you were able to escape, you'd just find yourself in space, perhaps the most hopeless place of all. So, the Callisto Protocol looks to always give you a glimmer of hope, some way forward, so that even when things seem hopeless, you're not quite helpless. To deliver Callisto Protocol scares and intense feeling of terror, it was crucial to have strong characters and a narrative to build on. With the Callisto Protocol, the team aspired to tell a simple story with complex characters. They wanted characters that changed, that grew, that went on an emotional journey that you followed them along on, coming out of the other side not quite as they were at the beginning, and for some of them that means they're not going to be quite as alive as they were. Striking Distance have worked so that all of the characters within the Callisto Protocol have something that you can relate to. You, hopefully, want them to survive, and that's what drives you forward in the game, and ultimately, what makes it hurt all the more when you run out of resources, when brutal things happen, and when the anxiety and fear kick in. Through the game, Jacob will start to challenge and lose his own humanity as he progresses. He will have to do things that he wouldn't normally consider doing, and you, as a player controlling him, may not necessarily realise all the horrible things you'll need to do to survive, though I definitely think some of you are looking forward to that. Ultimately, humanity and vulnerability do go hand in hand. Humans are weak, we bleed, we die all too easily to be honest, and a hell of a lot easier than any of the biophages. This vulnerability helps keep you on edge at all times, both in terms of the story and the combat. The Callisto Protocol is a love letter to horror, cinema, and gaming, but Schofield's ambitions are actually quite humble, saying that when it's all said and done, all he wants is for people to walk away from the Callisto Protocol and say, that was a good sci-fi horror game. So, are you excited for the Callisto Protocol? Will you be picking it up on release, or is it too spooky for you? Let me know in the comments below, and we will have a full Let's Play on the channel when it comes out, so make sure to keep an eye out for that. Give this video a like if you've enjoyed it, and subscribe to Eurogamer for more videos about video games, as we have one out almost every single day. Now, I'm going to go and get rid of any vestiges of yellow in my black wardrobe, because now I can't stop associating that colour with biophages, so I'll see you lot next time.